And we have Landry's and Vassals and Leblancs and Traha, Hébert. Oh, Hébert and Landry's, they're like this everywhere, I tell you. And there's a Broussard descendant, so we want to talk about that. And
Giroir, Bergeron. Anybody else?
What did I say, Leblanc? Did I forget Leblanc?
Yeah, you said Leblanc.
We have a Herpin, which is close to Herbin, but we haven't been able to make that link. Anyway, so this is Fort Edward, and on behalf of the Amis de Grand Pré, we want to welcome you here too. This is our resident authority, Sally Ross,
Not a resident.
who is with the Amis de Grand Pré. You're a resident. She's also the secretary for our group, and has too many accolades to list, but you can ask her later. And I think it's going to be Sally and Anne who will talk to you here about what the Acadian connection to what's Fort Edward all about in the story of the Acadians. And you are?
And I am Tyler. I am actually not the fort guide and interpreter. I work at a different museum, but he's not here today, so you get me. No Don Tomas?
No,
You're missing a key part of the Nova Scotian community
this
right
is
there.
Louisiana,
Yeah,
so
but this is perfect.
the
Yeah.
Dontremont like it in public, so they're not going to
And this lovely lady is Stéphanie Blanchette from Radio Canada, which is our Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And she's going to be joining us on the next 2 stops also.
Okay, so how do we want to do this? I guess
So I'll
Sally
just
and
say a quick word while thinking of Broussard. Well, first of all, this fort was constructed in 1750, and John will explain why. And the Acadians were rounded up in New Brunswick. And, well, it wasn't New Brunswick at the time. They had basically escaped deportation and were, you might say, in a resistance movement, but lacked resources and eventually had to capitulate. And they were stationed or put for a short time on the border of what is now New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, and then in the fort there, and then brought here and interned for almost 2 years. And one of the prisoners was Beausoleil Broussard, and he, like the others, was taken, that was from 61 to 62, and then taken to Halifax and released in 1763. And he came back here because he knew there were Acadians in the area, and basically, since he was the leader of the resistance, was trying to drum up support. But he was captured, and the British, he had in his hand a letter from the French authorities encouraging him to go to French territory, to go to France. And so he was captured, taken back to Halifax, imprisoned on George's Island, and was released in 1764. He managed to get a schooner and took, I forget how many supporters. They went to Saint-Domingue, Haiti. Didn't like the climate there. They found it too hot. They liked the cool climate of Louisiana. And he died not long after he arrived in Louisiana, 1765. So this is, he's probably the best known on an international level of the Acadians who were interned here. But many of the Acadians who ended up in Clare were interned here, and they were used to repair the dikes, cut the hay and the corn. So that's all I'll say. John, will you explain what the geographic interest is?
I have to say, I didn't introduce John Wilson. Oh my God, that's a terrible sin.
Oh my gosh, what a sin.
John Wilson. I already told them what a great supporter you've been for all of the Acadian story around here, so it's our pleasure to welcome you with us.
We're still working on it. Hey, as you know, as Sally mentioned, there's Halifax was formed as a counter to Louisbourg, and in 1749, and as it turned out, it was actually on the Acadian Trail from here to Cobequid, right through where those windmills are. The trail ran right up through there. Irvin and I have traced the better part of that trail all the way from Mount Uniacke to Grandpré. Little pieces of it that we can still find, and then now it's overlaid with the existing highway. But anyway, there's a lot of nuance here, but I can't get into all that because it would take 2 days. But in 1750, it was decided to build a fort in this area to overawe, good 18th century term, to overawe the Mi'kmaq and the Acadians, and to guard this trail and to guard this river junction, which is right there. Right there is the river.
So what are the
junction.
2 rivers?
This was St. Croix River, and it was called the Pisquid River.
So we have been there this morning, and we just have come from St. Croix. So
Oh yeah.
we understand
Yeah.
it's those 2 rivers.
The concern was that ships could come up this river all the way up there on the tide, and they were a day's march from Halifax. So they wanted to this as an outpost to guard this junction here.
Have you tried that march?
No, I didn't. Oh well, no, I haven't tried that march. But Irvin and I have done bits of it.
We've done a lot of marching. We've done most of that trail.
Yes.
John's done a lot of that trail.
How long would that be in kilometers? Or?
Oh,
47 miles?
7 miles?
Is that
Yeah.
all it is? Wow.
Am I right, John?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
something
Wow.
like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Irvin and I found a very interesting thing when we did the trails, is the Acadians, of course, they didn't have horses and wagons and all that, so they just went on a straight line up over the hills and down, and of course they had to avoid swamps and lakes and that, but they're up over and down. As soon as it came time for the wagons, during the British period, they had to go around the hills. So we see this all the time when we follow these trails. Here's the old trail going up the hill, and the new trail is around the hill. Very interesting. So it was established here. The fort was established here. Small fort, and a garrison, and everything seemed, there were issues, but you know the history as well as I do. In 1750, the Governor Lawrence really decided that they were going to get rid of these pesky Acadians, and so this was one of the sites where the men of the community mainly were drawn in and held here, and taken eventually right down there, loaded on boats, and taken down that way to just off Grandpré, where there were ships tied up, and they were loaded onto the ships, and I don't know how many, they waited there for a fair bit of time.
Yeah, there were 900 Acadians deported from here.
Yeah. So that was the first lot. And then, of course, after Louisbourg was captured and the British were moving up the St. Lawrence River, as they came upon these Acadian communities in Ile Saint-Jean and Ile Royale, they grabbed them as prisoners, and a lot of them were brought here and held as prisoners for 2 years.
Yeah,
in
close,
this area.
and there's a list,
And we
and
have
the
a-
list
we have
is
a
in
list.
there, I think, and I
Yeah.
have it.
Yeah.
You can look at it.
I have
list.
the list too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so we can do that. Yeah.
So then in what, 1768, 3, when the
The Treaty of Paris was 1763.
yeah, then there were, of course, in the meantime, British offered the Acadian land to New England planters, and free land. They came in and occupied the lands that had already been developed by the Acadians in two townships. On that side of the river was Newport Township. On this side of the river, Svelma Township. And if you've been to, have they been
We're going
to
to St. Filmon.
yeah. And this was Windsor Township. And they occupied these lands, so when the Acadians were able to come back, their lands were gone. And they settled elsewhere. I always find it very interesting that they came here as farmers, and over the 100 years, they eventually mainly became fishermen, and whatever they did, they did it very well, and they're still very highly regarded everywhere. Have you been down to Acadian area and all that area?
They have
there?
been everywhere, this group. They've even been to Pubnico and Clare and you name it.
So you see how they resettled and did very well. They have a great heritage.
I think Anne has a couple of photos
Oh, yeah.
there to
Yes,
show,
I
or
have,
drawings.
don't mean to interrupt, but
No.
this
I
would,
go on forever.
that's fine. This would be a picture, oh, sorry. This would be a picture of what it would have looked like, basically, with, you know, there was a store, there were barracks, there was a trading post, there were all these things. But I found this picture here very interesting, and it was on Jonathan Fowler's, I think it was yesterday's post.
Yeah.
And it's a painting from 1763, and on it
1753.
Oh yeah, sorry, 53. And you can see that this is where the fort is, but it overlooks the valley where the Acadian farms still were. And on this site where the blockhouse is, it is exactly where the church apparently
Yes.
was, because they dug underneath and they found remnants of church things that belonged. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I wanted
But
to
we
show
can
you this.
we can pass that around and we can look at it.
There's one that is actually over there, and if you look carefully when you get over there, this is not all complete there, but this was called Little Burying Island, and it was a native burying ground and an Acadian burying ground was right out there. And by the mid 1800s, it had washed away. But over on the other side of the St. Croix River, if you look very carefully, you can see how buildings there. Those are Acadian homes. And you can see some Acadian homes here as well, which would be down on that island down there.
You can pass this picture around if you'd like. Yes, it would have been interesting because they built the fort, but they would expect the Acadians to come and help them do the work.
Well, there's one other aspect of this fort that might be of interest. The British signed a treaty with the Mi'kmaq, in which they agreed to set up trading posts, which and one was set up here, and this is the trading post right here, just below the fort. Would have been right down in this area, and we have records of the furs and that were brought in for 1 year to the trading post and traded for household instruments and weapons, guns and knives and that type of thing. And at that time, the value of those furs was, I don't know what it was in pounds and shillings, but it added up to about $35,000, which was a lot of money in those days.
Yeah, we can just sort of
Just take
keep
them out.
passing it around so people can see what it would have looked like.
So, anything else in particular about here? Did we miss something?
Let me, I'd like to add on to John's already fantastic presentation by kind of mentioning some more things about the Acadian resistance. And while it's, really easy to see this as a symbol of course, what at the time was British domination and the subjugation of the Acadians, this is so much more than that for the Acadian people, because this is one of, the places where the resistance took place. This being the British outpost in the fort, this is where I know of at least one attack that was carried out by the Acadian resistance, in which they managed to kill 13 British soldiers in a nearby warehouse who were associated with imprisoning the Acadians and subjugating their people at that time. So, you know, when we think of this this symbol in this location, we're thinking not just about subjugation, but of the figures like Joseph Broussard and the others who, you know, went to such lengths to defend their people, right? So, and I'll kind of is this where we might want to start heading inside and looking at some of, so obviously, as we were kind of talking about, this isn't the only fort which once existed. And while this is kind of the most significant that had ever been here, in that it is the 1750 original construction, which was designed as to be a military powerhouse and to be that place for the British to assert their dominance and look down from you at the sky.
But
and
this
what
is
was
just
it?
the blockhouse. This is only a piece of the whole thing.
Only a piece of the barracks, the officers' quarters, and more. You know, I believe that piece of land over there, among, you know, others, is kind of the space that is very important to the Acadians, and that is where a lot of the imprisonments and the other work during the Acadian expulsion to get rid of the Acadians and their presence in this region. This is all around us. This is where that was exacted. So a lot of history took place here, and we're gonna do a heck of a job fitting everyone into whatever space we have in here. But if people would like to come into the blockhouse, I'll kind of explain some things about this construction.
I've been inside before.